Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for episode 5 of Survivor 45. My name is Mike Bloom, and spooky season is upon us, and we're not just afraid of the creepy, crawly worms. We eat the worms here on Survivor, or we try to, or vote them out in the case of Drew. In honor of the upcoming holiday, myself and the panelists that I'll be introducing shortly have, of course, dressed up for the occasion. I, of course, am doing my best Austin cosplay here. I'm all skin and bones at this point. I'm looking for a sandwich, but those pesky girls won't let me get one down my gullet. Dang it. You can't eat an amulet. But I am joined by two other people who will hopefully be less contentious in our discussion than the three of them. I gotta welcome in Liana here because this is one of those very fun costumes that requires an explanation.
This is so niche. Okay, so if anyone has happened upon Emily's Instagram, you would have seen a particular theme that she likes to do where actually let's show the whole Instagram feed first. Okay? So I don't know if you guys are noticing this if you're watching the video
YouTube,
version.
yeah.
Yes. So she has in like meme impact font written across the top financial analyst, and then on the bottom, Emily Flippin. And so I decided to channel this energy, particularly one specific photo. Let me pull it up wherever it went. Here,
There it is.
this one. So here is me with my striped shirt. I am financial analyst Emily Flippin. I have my headphones, and I put the little black square in the background that mimics that. And I have my cables because actually that's separate because these are wireless.
Oh my god, the illusion.
So and then I pose like, hold on, how do I and then I have to kind of have my arms up like this. Okay, I don't know if I'm doing it, but like that's sort of what I'm
Looks
going
like you're
for.
coming in for a hug.
I don't know. Well, because she's taking a selfie. The problem is that I have a webcam. So do I just like hold my webcam like this?
Hold your laptop aloft, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, so that's what we're going for. The shirt's a little bit inverted, but I feel like it's giving the same vibe. So that's my Halloween costume. It's so easy. Everybody will get it right away.
It's certainly giving. And of course, we are the ones that have been given a fantastic gift. So excited to welcome this guy back like we do every season on the B&B. Of course, you hear him every week on This Week in Survivor History, but this week he's additionally a B&B guest. Jordan Kalish, welcome back. What are you dressed up as? Who are you wearing?
Well, I am wearing. I decided to go with some yellow, also maybe as an homage to Emily's former tribe, the Delulululus. But I am here as a Survivor minion. I'm a minion, but I have a buff, so I'm on Survivor.
Yeah, you could certainly need a banana sometime soon.
Yes, I do, and you talked about the sandwich or amulet decision. They really missed the opportunity to go amulet or omelet. That should have been the decision.
No,
like Big Brother.
We're not leaving putrid eggs sitting on top of a hill baking again. That would be the hardest, most disgusting omelet.
Maybe have like an omelet station. Have like stew. Instead, he could take a break from making the pizza. He could just be out there with like a little omelet bar, putting some cheese in, some ham in, and he could be making omelets out there.
Stu doesn't do breakfast.
How do you know? What if he does he do breakfast pizzas?
No, he's a lunch guy only.
Well,
Stu doesn't get up until 11 o'clock.
What's the worst food to leave in the sun? I feel like fish is legitimately the worst, and they got that as a reward.
That's true. They did that in this episode.
Mayonnaise, just a bowl of mayonnaise.
Just a bowl of cottage cheese.
Yeah.
I don't like that in normal situations.
Same.
It's refrigerated.
Hey, here we go. Ready? You could go for cottage cheese or amulet in threes.
I hate that. I'd be like, amulet, please don't make me eat the cottage cheese, please.
So we have a big episode to get into. The last, turns out, pre-merge episode of Survivor 45. I really, really enjoyed this one. If I were to like rank the first 5 episodes of Survivor 45, which I have really enjoyed overall, I think even though some people feel like the departures of people like Hannah and Sean are polarizing, as we talked about last week, does not take away from my enjoyment of the episode. It would probably go like 3, 5, 2, 1, 4 or something like that. Like 5, like it's really tough for it to overwhelm the Sabaya Boot episode. but this was really, really strong. I feel like we got a nice fortification of our currently existing storylines, namely Bruce. We got some nice new stuff being brought in, as an example, Caleb and Kelly's dynamic. And there was a lot of very fun stuff going on. Yes, we did drop new advantages in, but as Austin himself expressed, they're kind of weak sauce, not weak cottage cheese. So I think it capped off a really great pre-merge from a really great cast. Jordan, of course, you've sort of stopped in every week with Rob to give your brief thoughts about the episodes, but give me your thoughts overall about both this week and how you look back on the past month plus of Survivor 45.
So I think overall, just based obviously it looks like we have finished the pre-merge aspect of this game. It looks like we're either going into a merge or some sort of mergatory. I think that this is my favorite pre-merge of the new era. I think the downside is the fact that in 2 of the episodes we had quits, right? So I think the end of an episode sort of loses its luster when you have someone who is choosing to go out of the game for whatever reason they decide to go out. But I do think that the other 3 episodes were so strong. And I also think that in the long run, yes, the quits did put a damper on those episodes. I think it did actually help the season going forward, because instead of losing Sifu, who I think is a great character, we lost Sean, who, nothing against Sean except for I don't love his decision, but he didn't want to be there.
You're not the only one. Julie and D also made it very clear how much they didn't like Sean.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of agreed with a lot of what they were saying. Like, they literally were going to keep him. Why burn them on the way out? And then, with Hannah, I think, she explained the reasons for why she chose to go out of the game. But we now have Emily, who's going to be going into the merge. So I really do think that you sort of have to lose the battle to win the overall war on Survivor. And we lost some people who, yes, it maybe put a damper on things at Tribal Council, but I think it has made for a stronger season now and a stronger season going forward. So I do think that this episode, in a normal season, you could look at this episode and think, oh, this is going to be maybe the best episode of the pre-merge, because we did get to see so many of those new relationships, how the relationships from the pre-swap portion of the game kind of came into the swap and affected things on this vote. But then we had 2 bangers of an episode back to back, where we had the Know-It-Alls episode where Brandon Donlin unfortunately goes out, and then we had the All-Timer Sabaya episode. So I do think you're right, this is probably the third best episode of the pre-merge, yet it was an unbelievable episode. And I think even the other 2, despite the quits, were still fun to watch. And I think that we have gotten a lot, especially with the 90-minute format. We have learned a lot about every single one of these contestants, whether they're, whether we're learning about how they're playing the game or just learning about who they are as a person. I think that we really have a lot of information going into the merge.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think in this episode too, having again another tribe with people who hadn't been to tribal yet, that was also really good, because obviously we had been set up for what may have happened next on the new Reba tribe, but to see four people never having been to tribal council go again and see not only what that means for tribal council itself, but also for all of the strategizing and preparation before that is also so fun, because you get to see a little bit more about how people are really going to play when they're under pressure and they actually have to vote somebody out. So I think that was also really fun on top of that. And to me, I feel like the amulet twist didn't really take away too much, apart from just being kind of lame. So
I did lead to some fun entertainment, though, just Austin being like,
yeah,
are we even having this discussion? No, I want the sandwich. J Maya's like, hold on, come on, we need advantages. And Austin's like, but we can't, I love the fact that they even showed almost in a meta way how kind of stupid the advantage is by keeping in the confessional of Austin being like, okay, we threw away sandwiches to get these amulets that could all pool together for an extra vote, which is stupid because none of us are going to agree on the right person to vote out anyway. Right. So the show is pretty much telling us these advantages only really serve to put out bounties on people.
Yes, exactly. That is the function of these. And I genuinely think it could even come to play next episode when we have the merge, because if we're getting the seeds of maybe J Maya, I don't know, from D and Julie, and then they're going to come back together with Austin and Drew, and they're going to be like, J Maya, she's got the other amulet. Let's try to make this thing more powerful. Blue's going to be fine with Red eating one of their own. So why would they fight that? So I genuinely could see this actually long-term playing a bigger role, although in this immediate moment, it feels very silly.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. These amulets are just little targets that they now have on their backs. They should have eaten the sandwiches. Austin was right, and he was robbed. Austin was robbed of his turkey sandwich.
Yeah, but he also got a lot more in return. Because what I also think is really interesting talking about advantages is that we did see Austin be able to, in my opinion, utilize a survivor loophole of, oh, I'm going to sacrifice my vote to increase the power of my idol. But hey, also this goodwill advantage just restores it. So I get to vote anyway, which I think, listen, don't hate the player, hate the game. And I do hate that portion of the game. I put this out on Twitter. To me, I just don't like the idea of advantages that cancel out other advantages. Never like the idol nullifier. I don't necessarily like this. It just feels too convoluted. And to me kind of obfuscates the actual sacrificial element of what he was doing. But what I find interesting is that Austin powered up his idol to be good.
Austin Power.
Yes, Austin Powers. And we are saying, oh, behave to some of his, time out there with the advantages, because much like Austin Powers proper, this idol's kind of frozen, because if you sacrifice your vote, the idol was good until everyone arrives on the same beach. But I don't think that means the idol is dead. My assumption is that in this Mergatory Tribal Council, if Austin sacrifices his vote again, then it becomes a regular idol.
So even if you get to the and that's why I don't love when Survivor puts all this stuff in, especially a lot of new stuff in the same season, because it does complicate things. If it was one new twist in a season and maybe we need Jeff Probst coming out and explaining it like he was doing in Survivor 41 about how the new era of Survivor was going to work, maybe that would make a little bit more sense. But you're right. I mean, watching the show, we should know what the rule is with all of these things. And I do think, Mike, I don't love the goodwill advantage as an advantage either, but I think it would be even more complicated if the goodwill advantage was able to restore a lost vote, but not a sacrifice vote, because then
I agree with that,
now you're just differentiating between two types of times that you can't vote. And I think that makes things more confusing. So I do agree with the Survivor production decision to allow the goodwill advantage to be used in the situation. But I disagree with putting it into the game at all.
I think that's what's tough, is that we always have this conversation, it feels like what's a good advantage, what's not a good advantage. And at this end of the day, we're all just we just want to watch these people play. So I don't know. It just, I just feel like Survivor's going to Survivor. And I'm just going to be there to see what weird stuff they throw at them when it comes to the advantages. And I don't know, maybe it feels apathetic of me to feel like I have no power over this, so I'm just going to let the advantages exist and we'll see what happens.
That's so zen of you. I love it. It's very Kendra, right? Isn't her mantra, whatever,
yes,
man?
Whatever, man.
Whatever, man.
I like this.
I'm no push hands for me. Whatever,
she was
man.
Wait, can I can't remember my mantra. Oh, that's what it is. Whatever, man.
Whatever, man. Yeah,
I know I say this every week, but this is a Kendra Stan account, just to confirm it. I adore her. I've said time and time again, this is my favorite character archetype on Survivor. Kendra is no different. Very specifically, the montage we got in this episode of her reacting to the idea of them voting her out, complete with her making sounds of both dogs and cats. She's an enigma. That she is able to contain the spirits of two warring animals says a lot about Kendra.
Yeah, we've gone past the days of where you could just be a gorilla on one shoulder and a lion on the other shoulder. She is all types of animals put into one. She's a dog. She's a cat. She's making noises. She is totally, I think one of the best characters on the season. And I think that's what the 90-minute episode has allowed us to get. I think we're getting so many of these character scenes that we don't normally get. And that's why this season, I think, has been so entertaining and so much fun. And we also, you always talk about how important the social game is on Survivor. And I think a lot of times when people win, because it's been, it gets explained after the season, oh, this person all had all these great social connections, but we don't see it. And then it confuses us. Why did this person win? I think in this season, if the winner wins, and I think usually the case is the winner wins because they've made the best social connection. I think we're not going to be confused. I think we're going to understand why this person won, whoever it may be.
That'd be really interesting if the winner didn't win. That would be wild. Could you imagine?
Imagine if the winner quit.
They're just about to read those. You want to see your name on this parchment. You know what, Jeff? When you said parchment, it reminded me of paper, which reminded me of my home office. And that's where I want to be.
So I'm just gonna head out right
I'm
now.
gonna leave, and then the person with the second.
No, then
highest
they
vote,
burn the votes.
they just burn the votes and they all go home. Give the
Yeah,
money
they're
to
like, you know
everybody.
what?
No
Everybody
winner.
wins. The final three, I'll split the money here.
We bring out like, I don't know, we bring out the pre-merge and they could like play a like mini final five or something, and that could be the season. Brandon Donlin, winner of Survivor 45.
I was gonna say, if they do one of those final 5 obstacle courses that Brandon has to climb a ladder at the end,
Oh no.
oofa doofa.
Oh no.
We used the phrase "oofa doofa."
In that same vein, I think that not just about Kendra, but like all of those other little, like the just little tiny editor character moments, those are the things that I also have really been enjoying. So for example, we get a reappearance of the aliens when Kendra brings up do you guys believe in aliens? And Emily goes, oh, I like she's learned. It's so cool. You get this like moment of personal growth.
Yes, but
Emily.
also you can imagine Emily's inner monologue is like, are you fucking
kidding me?
2/3 of this cast believes in and like worships aliens. This is the cast I find myself with.
And props to Emily
good.
though, because like if someone were to have glanced at her face, they wouldn't know that's what she was thinking, because she has learned. She went to the Caleb School of Etiquette, and she's laughing. She like her face looked happy. She was laughing. She was clearly looked like she was into it, even though we know what's going on in her head. And also props to the cameraman, because they do zoom in on her after they start talking about aliens. So that was a really good job of the cameraman knowing exactly what's going on in the game and what the audience would want to look for in the situation.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, I know that, Jordan, you actually sent us in DMs like some very fun camera shots that I even didn't see in the couple times I've watched it, like Caleb's face while Katurah and Bruce are going through Papaya Gate. I think we're at like Papaya Gate like 3.0 or 4.0 at this point with all the time they spend in Fiji, where Bruce nearly tells Katurah that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yes. I mean, nearly, but like he did do that. Like we, even though he didn't finish the sentence, that is what he did. And I love Bruce, but that's not the kind of thing that you want to be telling your tribe mates on Survivor, even though I do think that is sort of a irreconcilable relationship. I don't think that if Bruce like were to go out because of that, I don't think it's going to be because of that comment. I think it would be because of everything that's happened with him and Kendra. But it isn't the kind of thing you want to say on Survivor, and you're doing it in front of the whole tribe, which isn't great. And then yes, the picture I sent you was of Caleb's face, where he's sort of like he's like looking away, and then he like looks. It almost looks like he's looking at the camera, kind of pulling a Jim Halpert in that situation.
It's a Jim Halpert moment.
Yes, and you could see the wheels turning, where he is in a position where he needs to look for cracks, because he only has one original tribe mate who's left in the game. She's not even on his tribe right now, so he really needs to be looking for all these cracks, and I think he's doing a masterful job at this. I think one of the best things that I've seen, like, we talk about being in the little moves era of Survivor, where it's not the big swings that win you Survivor. And I don't think that this is going to be something that is going to win Caleb the game, but it's something that if he does win the game, we could look at this as an example of what he was doing when he goes to Katurah after she was clearly looking for an idol or an advantage in the woods. And, in front of the whole tribe, they all come up, but then he talks to her separately and says to her, whether he's genuine or not, it doesn't even matter. He says to her, look, first of all, he shares the piece of information that Sabaya had the idol there. And he says, look, the other people are kind of like worried about you because they knew what you were doing, but I got your back. I think that's the kind of little thing that like Katurah's probably freaking out in that moment. And she needs somebody to pull her aside and kind of console her there, I think. And Caleb goes and does that. And I think builds that bond with her. And from her confessional, she's clearly eating it up. So I think Caleb is doing such a good job of making these one-on-one connections. And I think that he, again, like I said before, when we get a winner of the season, we're going to know why this person won. We are going to get a winner of the season when we get and if it were to be Caleb, who I think at this point is playing the strongest game, I think we could look at little moments like that. And I'm so happy the show is giving it to us, because we saw it with Austin too. Like when Austin, shares the information about the amulets with Emily, which maybe she was on their side already, but that's something we could point to where he used the social connection and also a game trinket to get her on his side. But I think we're getting so many little things like that we don't always get.
I'm hoping that Caleb and Emily can kind of divide and conquer between what's left of Red and Blue. If they can get them to target each other, or whatever internal conflicts are happening between each of the groups, that's like my only hope, I feel like, for them to survive, because you have to be like, imagine that it's that alliance of 4 from Reba, and then like they're just so powerful. I feel like you have to get so lucky for them to turn on each other. But I really hope that they can do it, because that would be such a fun story to go from being completely decimated in the pre-merge to then being able to sort of mount this resurgence into the post-merge.
Well, honestly, I've been getting such Survivor Philippines vibes from this season, whether it's bringing back the medevac player,
Oh my God.
whether it's one tribe just being like completely wiped out. And then to Liana's point earlier, now we're starting to see like, okay, now Calabaw is going to tribal council, and we're starting to see finally how they interact. And so I do think that if we get to whatever the situation is next week, I don't think people are looking at Emily and Caleb right now. You know, this portion of the game is now all about going headhunting and trying to pick off. I mean, we'll talk about it next week. I think if Bruce is not safe from the Mergatory challenge, if it is Mergatory, I think his head is not only bleeding, but on the chopping block. I think we could very much get like an Ellie Gabler situation of like, okay, these two people have a conflict, so we have to vote one of them out. But I do think that it kind of has happened already, Liana, in the Divide and Conquer, where Emily has gotten in good with Austin and Drew, and I think by proxy, Dee and Julie. And Caleb, just by being on a tribe with 4 other Bellows who all want to work with him, has also gotten in good. Yep. And so there's sort of the Malcolm and Denise here, where I think they can be very variable. And to that point, I actually think Caleb in general, in my opinion, was a very big reason why Emily was flipping this episode, why she did what she did, because you would think on paper, and she vocalizes this, right, of like, okay, maybe I do stick with Bello because that means that I have, you know, this big group of 6 going into a possible merge situation. But we have to remember back to the aforementioned goodwill advantage, and whether we like the advantage or not, how Caleb brought it to Reba Beach. He went to Drew. He said, I want to work with you. I was told, I think by Sabaya in my exit interview, that he was talking for days about wanting to work with Austin, even just watching him on the mat. And so I really do think when Emily joined up with Austin and Drew, it wasn't talked about like in the episode, but I got to imagine there was some sort of conversation of like, oh yeah, we connected with Caleb when he was over on Reba. And Emily's like, you love Caleb? I love Caleb. And so I do think having that like mutual acquaintance in a way was probably one of the biggest indicators that brought her over to their side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree. I mean, I think also not only that, but even if you think about like, okay, let me be the ambassador to old Reba, and then Caleb, you can now be the ambassador to old Bello, and then we can even go from there. So I think, yes, there's all of those cross connections, but even just from a simpler perspective of just like, I got you on red, you got me on blue, great.
Yeah, they are sort of the independents in the ever-growing conflict between red and blue here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this strategy, you know, you could call it like the Will Wall pendulum strategy, but the Will Wall pendulum strategy was one person who's flipping back and forth. And I think that person usually gets clipped and usually doesn't win the game. But when it's a group of people, and we can go all the way back to Survivor the Amazon with Rob Sesternino, who had his little bottom feeders, and he would flip back and forth on basically every single vote. I think it's very it's very good. It's something it's hard to really get you out if you have a group of people that's flipping from side to side. Now, if the other players are able to recognize this, as they should, because I'm hoping all these players have seen Survivor Philippines and know what, you know, 2 people coming up from a tribe that was decimated, what kind of damage that they can do in the game. But I think that Caleb is a great social player. I think Emily is someone who's going to be underestimated, and I think that she has learned to be a better social player. I think that it's going to be hard to really get them out, and I don't know if there's enough people who are going to want to get them out, because basically the 2 factions in the game are both working with them. And you talked about being worried about Bruce going into Emergatory. He's someone I would be worried about as well, because, you know, it could be like you said with you know, Gabler bringing up Ellie. It could be the kind of thing Katurah could bring up his name, and everyone's like, oh, a blue's going after a blue, fine, let's do it. The other people I'm worried about, for the same reason, Katurah, because I think Bruce is recognizing that Katurah is against him. So I think that like the Bruce
what
and
did
the
I do? All I said was she was dumb.
Yeah, no, I do think, I mean, I think that Bruce, there was more reason for Katurah to be annoyed with Bruce than vice versa. But, you know, in Survivor, it's not always fair, right? In Survivor, Bruce could be like, okay, I've done some things to piss off Katurah, let's just get her out before she could get me, which would make sense. The people I'm maybe even more worried about would be J Maya, and especially Sifu, because I think Sifu doesn't have an ally in this game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times in a Emergatory, if we are getting, a Emergatory, you need people advocating for you. Nobody's going to advocate for Sifu. And I think even though the red people might be Reba Strong, I don't think Reba Strong includes Sifu. And I think Reba Strong barely includes J Maya.
Well, that's the thing with like the Sydney boot, right? In 41 was that like she was on a group with a bunch of other Luvu people, and all the other Luvu people were basically protected and looked out for. So Sydney was kind of the one left over that they had to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder how Sifu, the threat of Sifu's idol, may come into play. If that can help to, I don't know, stave off one more vote. But I don't know. We'll see.
How does this make sense? Maybe you two could offer some insight here. And look, I understand Survivor 44 gave away like 9 idols in the pre-merge, but I don't know, maybe I'm just too far in, that's putting it mildly, but like, I just can't imagine, okay, for a fact, you helped find the idol at your tribe's camp. Sifu has not been on a journey. He has just been wandering around the jungle for a dozen days. I just don't understand what makes you, even without him showing anything, jumping to the conclusion of like, well, he's got to have it.
Well, you're forgetting the fact that Sifu is a professional push hands master. And when you're a professional push hands master, you got to assume that you have one hell of a push. And maybe he's been push handing all the trees, all the rocks on the island, boom, kind of like Kill Bill, where she's like punching up at the grave, punching holes in all these trees. And maybe you punch enough holes in enough trees, you're going to find something, right? And that fake idol that he made looks pretty good.
It actually looks better because the idols
looks more like a real idol
in those little tubes.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think that Sifu's fake idol to me is almost too good.
Yeah.
Like, we have seen, my sort of impact on Survivor 39. Like, the idols have gotten very jank nowadays. They are purposely constructed to be like just beads on strings, not really looking like anything. I think Sifu made like a Bob Crowley idol, a little too good.
Like, who would have thought it would have been in a world where people would have not believed that it was real because it was too good, right?
That looks like something that CBS.com would sell from like Survivor 28. That's not a real idol. That's like professionally done.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed though with Sifu. Again, like in the cold open, I'm going to have to do some recon to figure out who voted for me. And his recon is like him lightly threatening J Maya by saying like, well, you know what push hands is, don't you? She's like, well, and from my neck of the woods, that's like third base, but go on. He says, well, it's all about reading energy and using that against them. And when he walks away, like, she is both frustrated and also confused of, wait, did he just like,
did he threaten me?
Did he say that he knew something about me that is also not true?
I think that J Maya's next hit single is going to be called "Push Hands," where it's about a scorned tribe mate who threatened her with games that you play in. What is it, Tai Chi? That
yeah, it's like well, I think he studied Tai Chi, but this is more, I think, of just like a martial arts competition that you engage in. I mean, I think this officially ends the partnership between the two of them. No more 4 steps down, so I don't think they'd be able to collaborate on push hands.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, I think, was there ever really a partnership? I mean, they sing. I get a musical partnership.
The musical,
they're
bands.
Okay, sure. They are in a bands, but yeah, they're having issues. No two people in a band have ever had personal issues before.
No. Never. They always get along.
Yeah.
The one other quick thing I want to talk about before we move on to our activities is the one Bruce line. I know we're all talking about the whole like "you're an idiot" line, but the line that really got me was, are you just going to stand there and do it? Or are you actually going to do it? Because I've said that. Okay. So look, I get where Bruce is coming from and the frustration of like, just do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, there's a whole company that based it off of that motto.
Exactly. Like,
Bruce
we are Nike.
Yeah, Bruce is the Nike of Survivor.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he does have his like Air Jordan shirt, so I think this does check out.
Listen, once upon a time, Survivor was sponsored by Reebok. Now we fully moved into the Nike era.
Reebok, REBAK.
So I just want to, maybe not on Survivor, I guess you shouldn't say that, but I also totally understand where Bruce is coming from.
This is the fun dichotomy, is like, we love when people do dumb things on this show that like are antithetical to good gameplay, because oftentimes it leads to good television. I
Mm.
love it. I love Sifu walking up to Jay Maya and basically doing like a Justin Sebic, would you be mad if I killed you with my hands? I love Bruce just like standing around and eventually just the veneer wearing off, that his Bruceisms or whatever Katora said eventually came out, and he just decides like, all right, these kids are need to start walking and stop talking. I adore that. I adore Drew telling Brando to his face for no good reason, no, I don't think I will. I'm not going to work with you. Like, these people are wild this season and how brazen their gameplay is, and I adore it so much.
And Mike, sorry, you can go. Yeah.
Well, I just gonna say, I saw a theory about that was like, well, because Brando approached Drew in front of Emily, Drew, this may be giving too much credit, didn't want to give away that like, oh, he had the capacity to be duplicitous or something like that. So like, because it was in front of Emily, that's why he was so brazen about his like anti-Brando thing. But I don't know, that feels like a little bit too far-fetched.
I think that's where on Survivor where usually it go, okay, you bring up an idea in front of another person and then that person leaves, and then Drew could like say, or Brando could say to Emily, or Drew could say to Emily, can you believe what just happened there? So I still think like you agree to the plan. And Mike, to bring up another Survivor Philippines comparison, famously Jonathan Penner turned down the Final Four alliance, and it ended up getting him voted out of the game. So another a tick on the Philippines checklist.
And Drew also kind of has that like very soothing way of talking, like Jonathan Penner. Like Jonathan Penner has the best Survivor narrator voice, but the way Drew talks, it's so matter of fact, and he has that bass to his voice that sounds really interesting. You want to buy his audiobook. And so even when he's saying like, no, Brando, fuck off, I don't want to work with you, you're leaving kind of be like, oh, I like him, I want to find out more about his Pokemon.
Yeah, and and I think part of it is, I mean, we talked about a lot of the reasons why Emily probably chose the Rebas over Brando and Kendra, but I think part of it could be like, first of all, you have Austin on that side who like just gives like meat shield energy, and I think he's someone that you want to work with because if they're coming for you, they're probably coming from him first. But I think
that meat is now getting to be like 10% fat at this point, considering how much Austin's losing weight.
That's true. If he misses out on a couple more turkey sandwiches, he won't be such a meat shield anymore, or a poultry shield. But I think Drew does have this presence about him that I wasn't expecting. Like I did not have very high expectations in the preseason when I was listening to your interviews and like reading the Dalton Ross stuff. But I am impressed with his game. I think he's not my winner pick. Like I do think he is someone who, once the vote goes in the direction of somebody from the Reba tribe with power, which I would say is like 4 people who are in that position, I think Drew is maybe the first person that gets looked at. Maybe, or Austin, either way. Austin,
and then Drew just says like, all right, everybody, I'm going to go. Safety without power. Goodbye. Basile out.
That's true. Yes. That's true. It has to be a blindside on Basile because he has the safety without power. So that could be interesting too. But if he uses that and then comes back to tribal the next time, I would not be shocked if he gets voted out, just for people being worried that he's going to have like this calming effect on the jury if he gets to a final tribal council.
Mm-hmm.
But I am impressed with this game. I think he is playing very well.
Well,
despite his mistake with Brando, which turned out to not bite him in the butt.
Yeah. Well, before we get into Brando proper, Jordan, I know before we came on, you said you have it not a game, but a quote activity.
So you know what, Rob? I called you Rob. You're wearing a buff.
At least he didn't call you dad.
Yeah. Wait, you called me Rob because I'm wearing a buff?
I mean, he was on the show Survivor at one point.
So were hundreds of other people.
And he also has a skeleton, like most people.
He does. Yeah.
I mean, everybody has a skeleton. Yes. No. So Mike, so I was saying about the game, the activity that I was going to bring in. I think that through our conversation, we maybe did the activity. And the activity was, I wrote down in my mind what all the relationships and all the alliances are in this game. And what I was going to do with you guys, and we were going to maybe list them out. I don't think we need to do that. I think that we have talked about every single alliance. I think that we've talked about every single partnership. And I did this for the last time I did this was Survivor 37. I wrote down all the relationships and I counted how many times, and I don't know if I counted correctly because of Kayla's math, but I wrote down how many times each name came up. The person whose name came up the most was Nick, who went on to win the season. So I don't know. The person whose name I have the most on here by a lot is Caleb. I also have a couple Emilys. I have a couple like Drews and Austins also. Caleb at this point is the person who I think is playing the best game. I still love Jake was my preseason winner pick, and I'm still loving where he is, even though
and he had an amazing
episode. Yes, great episode. People at my viewing party were worried that he could be going out after he had this backstory. But since he didn't go out, I think now it's something that could maybe build his like winning narrative if he were to win the game. The name that I don't have written here, and I did talk about this before, the person who has no connections, Sifu. So I think that my list can maybe be a little bit more predictive of who's in trouble at Mergatory, more so than who's going to win the game. But I could easily see Caleb winning the game, and I could easily see Sifu being the person voted out next if he's not immune. Now, again, it's like a 50-50 chance that he's immune.
Now, I'm intrigued, though, and again, assuming, so they're merging, quote-unquote, at 13. Yeah. I don't know if they're planning to do what they did with Survivor 43, where they merged at 13, where it was 6-on-6, and then Noelle got to just, pick a team, and then she sort of went with whatever ended up happening there. But I'm intrigued because the person that has been personified as, the middle woman this entire 5-episode stretch has been Kelly. So I'm surprised when you listed off those names as to who has the most.
Sorry, she's up there too. I was looking. There's a lot of K's on this season. No, I have Kelly, who's obviously with the Bella women with Kendra and Katura. She built that partnership with Caleb. She's in with Bruce and Jake. No, she's the other person here who I didn't mention, who is definitely on that list as well.
And that makes things so interesting, considering that Kelly and Caleb joined up, that Caleb sought out, okay, there's one other person who is challenging me as the most well-connected person on the tribe. And that can go one of two ways. We can see, especially in the past, people take out other people who have been in the middle, who have been those connectors because you're a threat to my game. Caleb is more so, if you can't beat him, join him, of okay, clearly you're doing something right, so I want to work with you and get on this bandwagon.
Okay, the way that Caleb spoke about that, though, was more I need to do this so I'm not targeted, instead of I need to create this connection because I actually have a vested interest in moving forward with Kelly long term. I think that this was generally just a covering my butt type situation. I think Kelly is actually in danger because I think that she's got the amulet curse on her. And I think that people are recognizing that she's in the middle. She's in the middle. She's in the middle. She's in this really good spot. And I'm actually a little bit nervous for her moving forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, maybe if there is a line sort of drawn in the sand, if it does become sort of the 4 on Reba versus everyone left on Bello, then it doesn't become so much of, well, we got to turn on Kelly now. It's more so we need you on our side. But I do see that point, especially like we've said, in a hyper meta era where people are now looking at everyone as well, you're working really well at the final 9, but we got to make sure you don't get to the final 3 right now, so you'll get voted out. If that ends up falling apart, I could see Kelly all of a sudden becoming public enemy number 1.
That's what I'm saying, is that I don't think it's something that's going to happen immediately. I think that the Bruce Katura war may come to a head first. The Sifu being on the outs may come to a head first. I think those events are going to happen. But then the next person who I don't know. I just feel it. Especially the amulet thing. For some reason, the amulet thing is really flipping me, because what I hear Austin, and immediately when he comes back to Drew's oh, so we got to take him out. That is the top priority. That is the first thing that they're thinking. And I have to imagine we were shown that for a reason.
I do think I do agree with you that the amulet was not a good thing for her, at least in the short run, because it does put the target on her. The thing is, though, if she is the last remaining person from the amulet twist and it turns into an idol, that's obviously something that, yes, she had the target, and now that she was probably going to be a public idol, I think she would have to play it right away. I do think that she's in the least amount of trouble of anybody who has that target on them. I think, especially just from a reading the edit perspective, you got to think that Austin is going to in some way get in trouble because of the fact that he now has this amulet. So just from reading the edit, I think I'm a little bit more worried about Austin. J Maya, I think, is in the position where now she has a target, and she doesn't have a lot of allies. So I think that she could be in trouble. I could see Kelly being the person who goes the furthest and getting the idol from it. But once it turns into an idol, I almost think that unless she's immune from like winning the challenge, I don't think that she can hold on to that idol that much longer in the game, because everyone's going to know she has it. Everyone's going to know about these amulets. And I think what helps Kelly is the infighting on her original tribe, because if it does come down to like Reba and Bella with Caleb and Emily in the middle, I think that it could be a Bella going before a Reba, that unless it's like, J Maya or Sifu. But I think if the target does shift to the Bellows, I think you're going to have Katura and Bruce each throwing themselves under the bus, and I think Kelly's name might not even come up within the next few votes of the merge.
Yeah, I think you don't even need to read the edit, in my opinion. I think you just look to like this merge makeup and you see Austin. And Caleb certainly has shown his challenge prowess, but like Austin really has been that golden boy, right?
Golden boy.
Yeah, don't start giggling here. But this idea of he is an amazing physical competitor. He has shown that like he has the capacity to find advantages. And so I do think Austin is kind of one of those prototypical people, whether old era or new era, who people go after in the post-merge just because he's perceived as so threatening. And so maybe from Austin's perspective, again, I do think he's going to sacrifice his vote again to get his idol fully powered up. But like, maybe that's another reason why he wants to go after Kelly, is like, I need to get as much safety on my side as possible, because I know, and we even saw this last season with Carson, like eventually, yeah, you look around and you're like, no, we got to get rid of these people. Like, they're nice, they're cool to get along with, but like they could absolutely just win out until the end. And so I think going back to like that hit list almost, Jordan, I think maybe even alongside Kelly, I would put Austin in for somebody who could make a run at it, but I do think there are going to be a lot of eyes on him as the post-merge goes along.
I think so too.
I disagree with this.
Really?
I so disagree. Austin's edit has true meat and potatoes content. Kelly's confessionals are so generic. They're so generic. Like, yes, she has some that give a little bit of more insight into what she's thinking, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. Wow, this is so intense. Oh, I'm in the middle. It's so boring. It's so bland. And I think that to me, Austin's edit is just so much more interesting. I feel like we get more of an insight of what he's thinking, where he's coming from, what his logic is behind certain decisions. And for that makes me feel like he's going to have more longevity. Additionally, he also gives me a little bit of Xander vibes. Like the fact that he had that really bad lie to Dee and Julie that they immediately saw through is the same as Xander lying to Tiffany way back in 41. And I think that people are going to be able to sort of look past that, like, physicalness to kind of see a little bit of a like a little bit of a dodo kind of thing going on. And I just feel like because of that, there's just I don't know, that's just how I feel when I see his content. I feel that it's not something that is, oh, this is like a big physical threat who's absolutely going to be targeted. It's like, this is someone who has this 4-person alliance, he's got his close bond with Drew, and he's never really painted as that much of a threat. So I don't know. Obviously, everything could change once we hit the merge, but we don't really get the confessionals about like, oh my God, Austin's so strong, he's going to be a big threat. It's more like, yeah, it's never those lines, and that's why we haven't seen anything like that yet. Not that we can't in the future, and not that he won't be a target later on, but just when I compare the two, I feel better about Austin.
I do see the Xander comparison, and I will say I am a lot more impressed with Austin than I was with Xander as a player. I think that we are, like you said in his confessionals, we're seeing his thought process more. I think that we are seeing his ability to like work with, to make alliances quickly and to work with people. It was a great move. I think a lot of times people overshare on Survivor. I think that sharing his amulet and information with Emily was the perfect decision in that specific situation. And it's something that everyone's going to find out anyway, because it's a 3-way shared advantage. There's no way that information isn't going to come out at some point. So I am very impressed with him. I think that Austin is someone who is absolutely a contender for all the reasons that you said. I think he's just a really good Survivor player. I think that the thing though is that people will recognize that. And I do think when I'm saying that he's going to be a target, I don't think he's going to be a target right away. I think he's too well insulated because there's only one 4-person alliance, I think, in this game. Maybe you could argue like Bruce, Jake, Kendra, and well, not no, I wouldn't say Bruce J. Kendra and Kelly is an alliance because I think Kendra was more like on the Katura side there in the original Bello. So I really think there is only one 4-person alliance, which is threatening, but it's also hard to break up because you have a lot of people backing you. If your name comes up, it's probably going to get back to you. But I do think that Austin, having that extra target now of the amulet, and then also, the fact that he's going to be perceived in a powerful position, I think it makes him, like, I would put Austin's winner chances about maybe tied with Kelly, but I think that his chances of going within like the first maybe couple votes, I'm going to say is higher than Kelly.
Hey, maybe that's how the season ends, where there's no winner. Maybe it'll be a tie in the final votes, and Jeff says like, "No winner this time. Too many people quit." This has never
happened before, which of course it has, but Jeff sometimes gets his facts wrong. This has never happened. Let's just split it. Okay, bye.
Well, let's get into maybe splitting between a couple of members of a party, perhaps the experience points. That's my awkward segue into talking about Brando. Tragically, our final pre-merge boot here. Really interesting edit from Brando. I would say one of the more purpled members of the cast. He had a really fun breakout episode in episode 2. But once he put on that tube top buff, it was basically an invisibility cloak. He went away for 2 episodes, but came back in rip-roaring fashion here between like the proposal of an alliance with Drew, then the denial, then him like simultaneously targeting Drew, but then also targeting Kendra at the same time. Let's get into our predictions because I also have a lot to get into from Brando from my interview with him, where a lot was revealed to say the least. Liana, how did you think Brando would do preseason?
Okay, so as I have said multiple times, I have used Google Bard to predict at least the order of how the survivors were going to place, and then I wrote the predictions. So here's the issue with Brando. He wasn't on the list somehow. Someone was on there twice who we haven't gotten to yet. So I went with it. Okay, so here we go. Brando, placement, unknown. Brando may have been announced as a member of the Survivor 45 cast, but does not appear on the show proper. If you look closely enough in some of the secret scenes, you can spot him in the background. Think Sasquatch.
Think Sasquatch.
Think Sasquatch.
I am thinking Sasquatch now.
The contestant who got the most purple edit, take that and new math multiply it by 1,000 to get Brando's purple edit. Despite this, Mike was able to get a postseason interview, which contains some nuggets of info.
Ooh, that's true.
For example, Brando formed a close bond with Redacted. Together, they successfully targeted Redacted. Brando also redacted, to which Jeff responded, Redacted. His ally was Redacted, and his enemy was Unknown.
Ooh.
Wow, so Brando was just working with Michael Skupin the entire time?
Yeah. No, that was me trying to be funny. So there we go. Thumbs up.
Yeah,
maybe where there's a 19th contestant, they brought back Michael Skupin for some reason. They're like, oh yeah, we should probably edit him out of the season.
As I was rereading this, because we write them before, right? So I wrote this weeks ago, and as I was rereading it, I was like, God, this sounds like Brando like did something horrible on the show, and they like edited him out, and I was like, that's not what I was going for.
I think he just went along with Google Bard. Google Bard was trying to cancel Brando. The rest of us love Brando.
Truly. Yeah. I think it got Brandon and Brando confused. And so that's why. But Brandon was not on there twice. It's someone else who's on there twice.
I'm not so worried now about like AIs taking over the world if they can't differentiate between Brando and Brandon.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're fine.
They have similar names. They have to be the same person.
Are you did you mean Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I did have substantial comments about Brando. I did have a placement for him. That placement was pre-jury. I said that upon losing their first challenge, pun-loving Brando will get back to camp and apologizing for belowing it. It does not go over well. He gets put on the savvy task in the premiere because of his glasses, only to come up short. Unfortunately, his CVS puzzle training doesn't pay off as he's put in the hero role on one of the puzzles and bungles it. Facing the vote, it comes down to Brando's perceived lack of strength and Kendra's personality issues. In the end, Brando is far from the bellow of the ball. His closest ally was Bruce, and his enemy was Kendra.
Okay, so I would say, here are the positives and negatives for
Give it
Liana
to
here.
us straight.
So the positives for Liana, she did say that there would be interesting nuggets of information in Mike's post. But here's the main issue that I have with Liana's prediction is that Brando, he was on the season, and we did see him. While he was on the season, and while he didn't have the most confessionals, and Mike, you did say that he was purpled a little bit for some of the episodes. He did in fact make an appearance. He got to go to tribal and vote, and he did do some challenges. So now, Mike, the negative of yours, Brando was not voted out for being weak at challenges. He was voted out because he got into a swap situation where it was a 2-2-1, and Emily chose the other side. The positives were you predicted that he would be on the season, and that he also you said that he would be pre-merge. He got the placement pretty good. He did not beef with Kendra by the end. I mean, he did throw Kendra's name out, but she didn't know that. She voted with him. So I have to say that Mike is going to get the point for this
fair.
one.
That's fair.
And I will say, let's get into the treasure trove of info that Brando gave me. According to him, Kendra did indeed throw him under the bus as well, after he ended up doing so. That Kendra had brought up to Austin and Drew essentially the reason why Brando was voted out, which is, he has this alliance with Kelly. He has all these connections with the Bellows, whereas I really don't. So, yeah, was a lot.
Good on her, for recognizing that.
But there was a lot of stuff coming out of Brando in my interview, which I'm really happy about. I loved getting the chance to talk with him. I mean, the big to-do, obviously, has to be Brando at the swap, picks a buff, and allegedly looks and sees a little piece of paper sewn into it like a tag. He rips the note off. He pockets it. He goes back to Cam thinking, okay, this is some sort of advantage that I can read. He goes to do a walk, which is code for a confessional if you don't know, and he sits down and he's like, great, so I can read this thing out now, right? And production's like, oh, right. Can you give us that for a second? And then they never gave it back.
That's bull.
So he has some theories as to what it might be, but yeah, Jordan, expound on that bull accusation some more.
Yeah, not bull what he's telling you, bull that what Survivor production did. If you get an advantage, I think that you should be allowed to read your advantage, even if he wouldn't have been able to use it, right? Because you could use it as a fake. We've seen clues for idols that have expired or been found before. So not every piece of paper that you get on Survivor has some sort of value in terms of finding something. I think he should have been able to use it and at least read it. And I think what they're doing, maybe they're thinking in the long term, like, we want to use this for a future season. Let's just put it in the bag so nobody gets to see it until it actually comes into play. But I really think that if you find something, you should be able to read it. And even if it doesn't make the edit, which that's fine. If it doesn't make the edit, it doesn't make the edit. I think he should have absolutely been able to read his own freaking advantage or clue, whatever it was.
Well, buffs don't have tags. So
I'm looking at all my buffs right now.
I'm looking at my buffs and I'm trying to see if there's because part of me is like, did he just, when you're like it's so itchy and you just kind of rip out the tag. Was it one of those moments or was it like a parchment? Like
he said it was in Survivor writing. So unless Survivor really has it in good with the people behind buffs.
Maybe.
So what he alleges, and what I think Occam's razor would dictate, is that this was something that had to be opened on the mat. And it was like, in that moment, you could decide. Maybe
but how does he know that? How is he supposed to know that?
Yeah, I mean, why would he even open it?
Why would he do that on the mat?
Well,
it has to say open on the mat, on the paper.
Open right now, please.
Yeah, I do. Open me. I do think, I ask on one hand, who the hell would have the insight to be like, I'm just going to open this right here. My answer would be about a third of this cast would be like, I don't care. I'll open this right now. But he alleges, if you can check out my interview or any of the other interviews he did this week, that he thinks it was either okay, you can swap tribe camps with another tribe. You can swap two people between two swap tribes. And it had to happen in that moment so that when, to Jordan's point, he got back to camp, that advantage had already expired. And so they basically took it.
But let's say the advantage was, okay, you get to switch yourself to another tribe. For example, we don't know what it was. But let's say he gets that. He could use that information and maybe Emily, who's the swing vote, he could say to Emily, look, I wanted to work with you. I could have swapped tribes, but I didn't. I think that's something that he could have used to maybe get him. I don't know if it would have worked. Probably wouldn't have. But it's still something he should have been able to do. I think it takes away agency from the player.
Is there any precedent for this? Have we ever had something that's a similar situation in the past?
So we have seen in some cases like an odd number of people swap, and sometimes like that odd person out might pick the tribe to join, or they might be like automatically drafted into that tribe. But we have never had someone say, okay, take your look of the land, now do some swapping around.
The mutiny
like-
might be the closest thing
Yeah.
to that, but that's different.
I guess I meant more like an advantage where it was either already expired or like would have been out of play by the time a person read it. Has that ever happened before?
I think just like maybe idle clues that have been found.
That's what I'm thinking.
But
Like,
that's-
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like an expired idle clue or like a
I mean,
one-use
I think
idol
was
or-
there ever an
the-
advantage menu that like you couldn't that you sort of were able to fake it? I'm not sure.
Well, there was also, I mean, you talk about like things having expanded lifespans in the game. Infamously in Survivor Heroes Heroes Hustlers, Chrissy was given that super idol by Ryan in the first episode and kept it all the way through to the finale to use as a fake. So, but that didn't have any sort of like legitimacy to it. And it wasn't like production said, hey, give us the idol back. Now you're done with it.
Yeah. Okay.
What if
bizarre.
Brando, the like production was like, oh, give me that for a second. What if Brando was like, no, and he opened it? I feel like a first time player is not going to do that, but like you can't
Bruce
punish him for that,
would've.
right? I think you're right. Bruce is a two-time player who's
Are
never
we
been to
talking or
tribal.
are we opening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Just aside here that Bruce is on his second season and he's making the merge and he's still never been to a tribal council.
Right?
Yes.
Again, if his head is on the chopping block, he might be able to, across 2 seasons of Survivor, only attend one tribal council.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it could happen. I hope not. I want to see Bruce go as far as possible, and like this just totally vindicates Survivor's decision to cast him in the first place because he's incredible TV, and then also their decision to bring him back. Like we can't waste this guy on a concussion.
Yeah, seriously.
I actually have now my turn at the game wheel. I want to bring in I'll call this a mini game. It's not an activity, but it's not a full on game.
Okay.
Because this came to me from the great Jessica Leese, my co-host on the Amazing Race podcast. Brando is, of course, into Pokemon. He plays Pokemon Go every day, boosting those numbers 7 years. Oh, it's a song. Have you never heard this song before?
I don't think so.
I don't know what this is.
Maybe I'll play it out on
Okay.
maybe it'll be like the outro of the podcast. It's a random song that gets stuck in your head. But he is very dedicated to the cause for the decades-long pursuit of Pokemon. Jess came up with this little game called Survivor Tribe or Pokemon Name.
Ooh.
So we're gonna do this really quick. So
Okay.
what I'll do is I'll name something. I'll just give it to each of you. You can both say, is it a Survivor Tribe or is it a Pokemon name? Jordan, I think the finger might be a bit in the scale for you because you.
I feel like I'll know the Survivor tribes. Pokemon I played the original 151, but I don't really know the new Pokemon. But I think I'll know the Survivor tribes. Pretty sure. Maybe some of the new era merge tribe names might be tough because they never even mentioned those.
Yeah,
I'm in danger. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. Well, we'll get into the game later, but we did this survey, obviously, like we like to do. And Liana and I were talking about, okay, what do we do? And I said, you could do Pokemon, but Liana's like, I don't know her.
I don't know her. I don't. Puya asked me, he tried to quiz me on them. I think I got about 6. And that's with him being very generous to me.
Do you know which 6 you got?
Okay. Charmander, Charizard, Pikachu, Squirtle. The Bulba one, Bulbasaur.
The Bulba one.
It was a lot of the Spiral Boy. It was a lot of those. I could picture them in my head. The one with the little spiral on his
I
head.
remember
the
that was
Poliwag.
Yes, Poliwag. And then I got Kirby and Jigglypuff confused, but we eventually got there.
Spiral Boy is an incredible nickname.
Yes, and then we looked at the 151, and I've decided that my favorite is Dugong because
Dugong
he's
is
a little
great. Yeah.
seal thing. He's so cute. And then Puya played a sound. He's like, "This is the noise they make," and it's like Dugong, gong, gong, gong. And I was like, "That's what I picked."
But also,
I can see
there's also the
Kendra
one-
having her own Pokemon noise.
But also the one before it is Seal. It just goes Seal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the puberty it went through. That's Ugly Duckling.
But of course, those are the ones I picked. So here we are.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's save this maybe if we get Beth on next season. I think that would be like her 5-hole basically. But
Yes.
let's do this really quick. So I'll mention a name. Each of you give me Pokemon or Survivor Tribe, and I'll tell you who's right. So let's
Okay.
start. Tapu Bulu, Liana.
Survivor.
Jordan.
And are any of these international seasons of
No.
Okay, Tapu Bulu is a Pokemon.
That is correct. It is a Pokemon. Jordan, Molokol.
Molokol is a Survivor Tribe.
Do you agree, Liana?
Yeah, Survivor Tribe, obviously.
That's correct. Liana Solani.
Survivor Tribe.
Survivor Tribe.
Yep, that's correct. From One World. Jordan, Ludicolo.
Ludicolo has to be a Pokemon.
What do you
Gotta
think?
be a Pokemon.
I love you just being like of what he said.
Whatever Jordan says, I'm gonna say that.
All right, so I'm just gonna keep going to you, Liana, for each one.
No,
That is correct.
that's not fair.
Liana, Munna.
I don't know, Pokemon.
Jordan.
Spell it.
No.
Munna, and it's
Yeah.
Munna. I'm gonna
Munna.
say it's a
Mana.
Pokemon.
That's correct. Yes. Not
Nailed
to
it.
be confused with Mana, which was a tribe
Okay.
name from Survivor Game Changer.
I thought you were maybe pronouncing things weirdly.
Wouldn't I just? That'd be great. Liana, Zaruda.
It's a Survivor.
No, that's a Pokemon.
As a
Okay,
Pokemon. Finally, Liana, Escameca.
Survivor.
Yeah, Survivor.
Yeah, that's from Mike Holloway's tribe from Survivor Worlds Apart. You made it through. You ripped off the Band-Aid.
I survived.
You don't even have to
Okay,
go to
I did
Nurse
it.
Joy.
Okay, here's the thing though. So, inspired by Brando, I played Pokemon Go. Like
Every
2016.
day.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mike. I was Pokemon going outside, and we re-downloaded it. There's like 1,000 of them, and
There's too many.
So many, and I've tried. I really tried to like memorize the ones that I was catching and stuff, but I don't know. The Pokemon Go right now, there's like a lot going on, and there's a bunch that are in pumpkins, and I don't know if that's canon. There's like there's Pumpkinmon. I don't know, but
What?
Look,
This is
I
a
don't know. I
pumpkin
don't
po-
remember their names.
here's-
Well, there is
my take.
a
They're
Pokemon
in little-
that does have like a pumpkin head, but that's
Ooh.
only one.
I think
I
this one
don't
was in
like
a
these
pumpkin
new ever
body.
Pokemon.
But I
Pumpkin
think it's
oh.
thematic to the season. Like, I think that there's an activity going on right now. I need Brando to explain everything about Pokemon Go because I've not played since 2016.
What
so.
about like Pokemon Spice? Is that something?
Ooh,
That
that's a
feels,
good one.
or is that like cannibalistic? Like, are they grinding up Pokemon to make the spice?
Ooh, yeah, I don't know about that. That's actually, that's the case, that's really creepy.
But like, that's the world they live in.
I mean,
you know?
they eat
like,
fish. Don't they eat like Magikarps
yeah,
on
like
the show?
what do they do for meat in Pokemon? They have to eat other Pokemon.
There's no squirrels.
Are those the only animals that exist in the Pokemon universe? Are
think so.
Pokemon,
Yes,
or
it's
do
not
other
like, oh,
animals
here's
exist?
Squirtle, here's Charmander, here's a horse. No,
Yeah.
just like,
Well, there's
Yeah.
there's Ponyta.
yeah, but that's a Pokemon.
That's a Pokemon. Yeah.
Okay, so there's Pumpkaboo.
Pumpkaboo. Okay,
Is that a
that's
no?
gonna be my new nickname for Angela.
That's gonna be
Yes.
the next merge tribe on Survivor 46.
Pumpkaboo. I can't.
Well,
wait.
listen, if Brandon
It
had
could be
made it, he
45,
would have
yeah.
tried to name it after a Pokemon, like Malcolm Freeberg style.
Okay, and then there's also Phantump.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Phantump is like a ghost with a
Okay.
little like.
Yes,
It's a ghost
Yes.
Pokemon. Let me see what
Yeah.
it looks like.
it looks like that.
You're frozen. Oh, there he is. Oh,
Oh,
he's kind of cute,
yeah.
actually.
You see
I
him?
kind of like him. Here's the thing. I'm sort of out on anything after the original Pokemon. I think probably because I
Wow,
like
boomer.
didn't play it. No, I know it is a
Okay,
little bit of
boomer.
a boomer, or I guess a millennial take. But to me, the 151 original Pokemon, those are the ones that actually exist in the wild. The other ones are fan fiction.
You realize that you are doing a 39-day Survivor, like old man yells at cloud thing, right?
Yes,
Like,
I
imagine,
understand
like
that.
this is not real Pokemon.
This isn't real Pokemon.
They don't actually exist.
I think that I sort of look at the new Pokemon like a lot of like old school Survivor fans might look at the new era and say, "Oh, this isn't really Survivor." I think that new era is real Survivor, even though I disagree with a lot of the things that they do. I think that all of Survivor is canon. I don't know if all of Pokemon is canon, especially these like little pumpkins that are walking around.
Okay,
Insane.
wait. Do you remember some of the original designs of those Pokemon and how lazy they were? And you're
Yes.
like, but I draw the line at pumpkin Pokemon,
Yes.
please.
I know.
Yeah.
How dare you?
There was Tangela, who was just vines.
It was a bush. It was a bush
There was
with
a bu-
legs.
How cute.
There was a rock.
Yeah, there was a rock with arms. The height
the
of
rock.
creativity in 1996.
Who was your starter Pokemon from the original series? Usually,
Usually, I I played them so many times. I think I usually went with Squirtle just because
Squirtle, okay.
to get Blastoise, to get a freaking turtle with like water guns on its back is pretty damn incredible.
It is. No, Blastoise is cool. I was more of a Charmander guy because I love Charizard. Charizard was probably not my favorite Pokemon, but I think my favorite like advanced Pokemon. So I usually went but I definitely played all of them as a kid, and then I got the yellow one too with Pikachu as the starting Pokemon.
That's interesting because we have once again it's red versus blue, and here's our little like yellow version coming up in Emily and Caleb that are making an impression on themselves.
Yeah, and it's too bad that Brando doesn't get to live out the red versus blue versus yellow battle that he's been dreaming about his whole life. I really like Brando. I think that Brando is someone who's not going to be like, no one's going to think of him as like the biggest character from the season.
Well,
but
according to a good AI bar, no one's going to think of him. Period.
That's true. I think we might give him a little bit more credit than AI Bard. But I do think he's someone who was in a really good spot on his original tribe. I love the tribe swap. I'm happy we brought it back. If this was a regular New Era season without a tribe swap, he would have been totally fine making the merge. I don't think there's any danger that he would have been voted out with being in the middle with Kelly. And I think here, just like, I think I don't want to call it a swap screw because he got swapped with another tribe member. It was 2-1. He obviously, and Kendra obviously needed to maybe do more to get Emily in. I think that, obviously the red tribe was a little bit more powerful with their advantages. And also I think, D and Austin, Drew and Austin could maybe be looked at as more of a shield going further in the game. But I do think that he's someone who did have a lot of survivor savvy. I think he's someone who, if he did go further, could have been looked at as, I think he was looked at as a threat, which is why I think he was voted out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he expressed to me, at least from his perspective, that like if Bello had gone to tribal council in that configuration, Bruce would have been voted out.
Really?
Then if they went back again, then maybe it would be, I don't know, they might just go for a clean sweep and go for Jake. Maybe in that case, then they actually go for someone like Katura, who like they're continuing to get sketched out by. But yeah, from what Brando told me, because apparently Bruce and Katura sort of had a moment not too dissimilar to what happened with him and Drew, where like, I guess one had proposed an alliance to the other one and the other had said no. I can't figure out which, because honestly, both of them could fit that role. But basically, like, tension had become palpable. And I think Brando felt better in with the, I think they called them like the buff bandos or something, than with the men. And so it would have been Bruce going here. So maybe it'll be a bit of a final destination thing where the first tribal council Bruce attends no matter what. He's voted out.
Oh no.
Yeah, that it does surprise me because I knew it was either going to be probably Bruce or Katura. I thought based on the confessional we got with Kelly talking about how like the women think I'm with them, but I'm really playing the middle. Brando's really my biggest ally. They could have gone either way. I just thought that maybe like you see, I think maybe because of like the Jake influence. I think it seems like people want to work with Jake. And since he's the one tied to Bruce, I thought maybe Katura would have been the one to go. And also, I think that if you vote out Bruce, you might totally lose Jake. I think if you voted out Katura, I don't think she's as close with Kendra as Bruce is with Jake. So I think maybe you vote out the person who has less of a strong connection because you don't leave someone in the game who might be mad at you. But I believe Brando's take. He was there.
He was there. Yes, exactly.
He was there. Yes, he was there. He played Survivor.
All right, let's switch gears and let's continue on our Halloween theme for our main game. Yes, thank you, Jordan. So we are bringing you Survivor meets Halloween candy. We have done this format before on the B&B where I have put out a survey to the listeners to fill out which Survivor player reminds them the most of a particular candy in this instance. So the way this game is going to work is I'm going to go through each question and I'm going to ask Mike and Jordan who they think the audience answered. And then based on their answer, they'll get a certain number of points. So for example, if let's say Brando got 20% of the vote, Mike said Brando, Mike would get 20 points. Okay, so that's the way that this is going to work. So you want the person that not only is the consensus answer, but ideally has the biggest percentage of the vote. So some of these are a little bit more obvious than others. I'm very curious also to see the two of you, what your line of logic is. I'm
curious how any of these could be obvious, but I'm looking forward to hearing which candies.
I think, once Liana goes through the names of the candies, like not to say judge a candy by its cover, but I think that definitely leans a bit in the corner of some players.
Okay.
All right, let's kick things off with our very first candy, Butterfingers. So, Mike, we're going to go to you on this one. Which Survivor player do you think the audience answered is the most like Butterfingers?
I love Brandon Donlin
Mm.
so much. How can it not be him? Not to say that any of the other like 17 contestants are so much above him in terms of challenge performance, but again, you look at the name, and not to say that Brandon had any. Well, I guess he couldn't hold on to the ladder. I suppose that was literally the definition of Butterfingers. Not to also, I'll describe another meaning to it. Butterfinger was memorably had a lot of commercials around characters of The Simpsons, if you remember. Bart Simpson saying, "Don't lay a finger on my Butterfinger." And we know that Brandon was on the Yellow Tribe, so I feel like and was also sort of in the Springfield of Fiji, where there was just so many wacky comedic characters around him. So I gotta go Brandon here.
Okay, so Jordan, you cannot answer
Oh,
Brandon,
no.
but
This is
any
bad.
of the other contestants are available.
I'm trying to think who else it could possibly be. I am going to take maybe something from Mike's strategy of choosing a yellow contestant, because Butterfingers have yellow wrappers, but there's no one who really stands out here as being Butterfingers besides Brandon Donlin. I am going to go with Sabaya, because Sabaya had Butterfingers, when you leave them in your pocket all day and they melt, right? And she had to melt wax to get an idol. She's on the Yellow Tribe. She also Butterfingers, maybe it's not like a physical Butterfingers like Brandon Donlin, where he couldn't hang on to the ladder, but she had an idol that she could have played, and she let the opportunity to play the idol slip through her Butterfingers. So I'll say Sabaya. I don't feel good about it at all, but I'll go Sabaya.
It's like but her emails, but her fingers.
But her fingers, yes.
Okay, so Mike got the lion's share of the points here. So 49.2% of the respondents of the poll said Brandon. The next top answer was actually Jake, I assume because of the falling over a bunch.
Sure.
Passing out.
So savage. This man looks like he's having seizures. I'm like, this is a real Butterfingers.
Yeah, falling over. So Mike will get 49.2 points, and Jordan, Sabaya only had 2.8% of the vote. But the pie chart was pretty well split. It was Brandon with the lion's share. But let's move on to our next question, which, by the way, shout out to all the listeners who filled this out.
Yes,
we got a lot of responses. Thank you so much. We could
Thank
genuinely
you,
this
not
is an incredibly silly exercise that requires actual levels of critical thinking. And so, thank you to anybody who clicked on it.
And I think the one or two people that picked Sabaya there for Butterfingers.
Yes, exactly. The 7 people, I believe.
Oh, 7 people. Okay. Oh, well, you had a lot of responses then.
We got 264
responses. That's great.
Yes, so shout outs.
RHAP Nation.
264 trick-or-treaters at the B&B.
Yes, baby.
Knock, knock.
No razor blades here. Okay. Which
Survivor smells like a razor blade or an apple? That's Kelly. She has the dagger behind her back and the razor blade in her apple.
Okay, next year I'll write that down. So Jordan, you're going to get the opportunity to go first here. So which Survivor 45 player is most like sugar daddies?
Sugar daddies? Is that a candy?
Yes, it is a candy. And that was Puya's response also. He was like, what are sugar daddies? I was like, what do you mean you've never heard of sugar daddies?
Okay, so sugar daddies, you would think it would be somebody who was maybe a later days survivor, because just the connotation of daddy. And I think that the only person I could really think here who could be a sugar daddy could be our friend Bruce. Bruce is the sugar daddy.
Okay. Jordan says Bruce. Mike, what do you think?
Let me just first say, I don't have a sugar daddy. I've never had a sugar daddy. If I wanted a sugar daddy, I could probably go out and get one, because I am sickening. Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
So, yeah, since I have never had a sugar daddy, though I could probably get one. I don't really know from a taste aspect, so I don't know how many people have had sugar daddies in their life. Bruce, I think, was the person here. So I gotta think about another one. I mean, sugar daddy, I'm thinking about someone who is affluent, who is wealthy that you can lean on. So I'm going to actually say, I'll say Austin, because Austin has all these advantages, and I feel like that amounts to some sort of wealth in Survivor.
Okay, so runaway answer, Jordan, Bruce, sugar daddy. So that was 56.3%
Wow.
of the
I'm
vote.
surprised it's more than Butterfingers for Brandon.
Same. I was also very surprised.
Well, if only Jake didn't fall over.
It's really Jake taking the points away. Yes. And then there were sort of 3 other votes, or 3 other people that were all very similar, vying for second place. And that was Jake, Caleb, and Austin. So Mike, you did get 7.9% of the vote for you.
We're close right now, Mike. You know, the first Survivor. If we brought this to all of Survivor history, the first player who came to my mind for Sugar Daddy was Bob Crowley, who
was Sugar's daddy.
Was Sugar's daddy on the season.
All right, is the score right now is only 2%, 2 points, I guess, apart. So very close with Jordan. Just a little bit in the lead there.
Stop the count.
Butterfingers.
Don't put it in your pocket. Let's see what you guys think about candy corn.
Ooh.
This is your next candy. Mike, what season 45 player is most like candy corn?
Candy corn. So who's Chappelle's favorite player this season? I guess is the question. No, so candy corn is something that is not heavily desired. I think it is oftentimes, with probably one large exception, regarded as like a lesser than candy. It's just like a handful of something that you get given. I believe, isn't that also like the big Dane Cook joke that like, no, it was the Lewis Black joke that all candy corn was created in like 1946 or something. For that reason, I'm going to go Bruce.
Okay, Bruce.
That's not where
like
I thought you were
something
going.
that's like not very popular, but has always been around.
Sure.
Okay.
That's the same reason that he's the sugar daddy. He's a daddy. He's been around for a long time, and now he's the candy corn. That's not where I was going to go, Mike. I'm between 2 contestants. I think that there are a lot of people out there that have been very vocally anti candy corn, and I think that people were kind of pissed off at Sean after the quit last week. So I could see it being Sean, but the person who I'm going to go with is going to be someone, because I think the main thing about candy corn is it's divisive, right? I think it's led to a lot of social media arguments. I think the most divisive player, and I think that all the fans basically love her, but I think the person who is a divisive, especially with the premiere in mind, the most divisive person I think might be Emily in terms of just personality. If you have to live with her on an island, that might be the person who some people love her, some people hate, some people don't like her. I'm going to go Emily Flippin as the candy corn of the season.
Jordan, you listed the top 2 answers with Emily and Sean.
Wow.
Very impressive.
I'm in touch with the audience, man of the people.
Yes.
And Emily was the top answer, 16.8%.
Wow, nice.
Bruce was in the top 6, so Mike wasn't too far off.
Okay, thank you for being so generous with me.
We were the top. There's 18 people. The top 6. This is the top third. Whatever. Anyway,
I loved, by the way, just to like corn up a brief Emily moment, because like again, we've talked about her maturation. I still love, though, that there's always a time that she defaults back to her usual state, and it happened in Tribal Council where Emily's like, I'm going to call bullshit on that for just a hot second. I know I'm the flippin' right now. I'm the swing vote, but like, I can't help but speak my mind here.
I know.
It also happened where she said to Drew, I think you're lying to me.
Yeah, just straight up to his face. It's so good. Let's continue on with our candy. We're going to gummy bears. So Jordan, I believe you're going first. Which player is the most like gummy bears?
So the player, I'm again between 2. I'm not going to list my second one because I don't want to help out my competition here. I'm going to say the gummy bear.
Yes.
Ooh, there's actually a couple people who this could be. Oh man, this is a season of gummy bears.
I have no freaking clue.
Okay.
Let me just set up my answer ahead of time.
I'm going to say the gummy bear is Sifu. And Sifu, I could see as the gummy bear because he kind of looks like you'd want to give him a hug, right? You got to give Sifu a big bear hug.
All right. I don't know. Do gummy bears? I think their hands are down by their sides.
Their hands are
Like,
down.
They
but
have,
if
they have
they-
like
but if-
T-Rex
but
arms.
maybe-
Yeah, but if they can move, like they'd be able to move their hands. They're
Right.
stuck in an unfortunate position. But I think that there's and Mike, I think there's a couple good people to choose from because I had a tough time with this. There's multiple gummy bears that you can choose here. I think there's like 4 gummy bears on this season.
So now there's like a game within a game of will I pick Jordan's
One of
most
Jordan?
popular?
Will you pick one of my gummy bears? Because there's really like 3 main ones, and then there's like maybe like the little maybe not quite a gummy bear, but he might be like a gummy koala bear, which isn't. I don't think koala bears are really bears. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I didn't realize there was an
Is that
Australian
wrong?
play.
I don't
No, they are. I think a type of.
It's a type of bear. Okay, but yeah, my
okay.
grandpa, everyone said used to look like a koala bear. He did. He had
What?
like the hair. He resembled a koala bear.
Okay.
Also, koalas aren't bears; they're marsupials.
Ooh, okay, yes, I was right.
I forgot they have the. Do they have the pouch?
They have a little pouch. Yes.
Yes.
Did your grandpa have a pouch?
He did have a fanny pack at one point, probably.
Okay, so that's pretty.
Okay, maybe
He
we
similar.
was an old man. I mean, an old man. I think carried around fanny packs.
All right, so
yeah, Mike, please go.
I don't know if this is on Jordan's Mount Rushmore of gummy bear people on
Mhm.
Survivor 45. At first blush, my first thought is Caleb. I think about the fact that gummy bears are come in a bunch of different colors and assortments, and Caleb seems to be one of those people that, like, even though Sean was sort of labeled as the chameleon by Emily last episode, I feel like he's the one that has been able to blend into a lot of different backgrounds, and everyone seems to like him. And I feel like gummy bears is like a pretty universally popular candy. You just like grab them by the handful, and I feel like Caleb is somebody that a lot of people are trying to pick up as well.
He was not one of my Mount Rushmore of gummy bears, actually. So that's interesting.
Hey.
Okay, you want to give your Mount Rushmore quickly,
Sure.
Jordan?
To me, the gummy bears on this season, I could see Brandon Donlin as a gummy bear, but we already picked
Okay.
him, so like he was sort of. I think people had Donlin fatigue from picking him from the first one. I could see Jake as a gummy bear. I think like
Okay.
he's the accent. I think he's endearing. And then Bruce has come up for all these. I think Bruce could just be a bunch of different candies.
You literally just picked all the people that are bears.
I think maybe that's what I did.
Yeah, well, look, that logic is not too bad because Jake was the top answer with
Ooh, I was
18.1%
very
of the
close
vote,
to going with Jake.
followed by Sifu with
Okay.
11.6%, Brandon in third with 10%. Then it was Austin
Okay.
before Caleb. So Caleb
Okay.
was top 5.
Top
Mike. You're moving
5.
up.
I'm
You're
moving
moving up
up.
in the world. Good for you. Let's switch gears and talk about raisins. Nature's candy.
Ugh.
Mike, please kick us off in general with this.
Let me just say, for all those that are listening, fuck raisins.
Yes,
and I
I
said
agree.
that shit. Get
Fuck
your
raisins.
shriveled ass grapes out of here. I am the most anti-raisin person in my household. Now, it's interesting. I religiously ate Raisin Bran every day. I'd say from ages like 12 to 18 for breakfast. And I think I just woke up and a switch had flipped into me to be like, you not only don't like this anymore, this is now the thing you are staunchly against. And so letting it be something to be given out. And look, I'm a parent. I don't want my child to completely consume sugar. And he actually likes raisins. At the same time, if anything has raisins in it, it's like ruined oatmeal cookies for me. It's just like we'll consistently get things from the grocery store. And it's like, oh, this is great. Oh, it has raisins in it. It has become one of my like red flag foods. Like I cannot have anything that has raisins in it because that's all I'm going to see, taste, hear, smell, etc. Bruce, it's got to be Bruce. He's the oldest person. He's like shriveled like a raisin from a skin perspective, I suppose, as compared to everybody else. Not to say
His
that Bruce
skin is stunning.
yes, but has the highest chance of becoming wrinkled by
Oh
just
my
your
God.
age perspective. And I do think as well, again, it's something that people kind of put up with getting in their Halloween basket. And I think the perception right now from a lot of people on Lulu is like, we're just kind of putting our heads down and making do with Bruce.
All right, interesting. Jordan, let's hear your logic.
I want to give Mike like the Meryl Streep standing up and applauding gift for his rant about raisins. I totally agree. I've always been anti-raisin. I've never been on the Raisin Bran train. Get your raisins out of my cereal. Get them out of my cookies. Get them out of my life. I am going to go. So here's the thing. I think raisins. People sometimes like raisins, and I think the the main thing about raisins, besides the fact that they're gross, and I'm not picking this person because I don't like them. I'm picking. I actually do like this person. We see someone who is shriveling up a little bit on the show just from lack of calories, and I'm gonna say Drew is the raisin.
Okay, Drew is the raisin. Let me
See her looking down on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. He's
okay.
scrolling.
So,
Maybe this wasn't the best pick.
all right, let me give you the top answers. Kendra, top answer.
Interesting.
Because
She's so much better than any raisin.
I guess she's like from the earth.
Yes, exactly. I think
okay.
That's the vibe. Then tied for second place, Sean and Emily.
I considered Sean mainly because, I thought about Sean.
It's giving candy corn.
Really is like it was. Oh, do you hate this candy? The answer is Sean. It's like, well, you're Sean here.
Hannah was in the top 5 also.
I considered Hannah too. Damn, I should have got one.
Wow, was the other answer. So, Mike, you did slightly better than Jordan with 7.1% of the vote. Jordan 6.3%.
Okay, I could live with that.
Okay.
I really I should have. I think I didn't feel great about Drew when I said it. I should have maybe gone with either Hannah or Sean, which were the two people I was thinking. But I think I was putting my own bias, my anti-raisin bias in there. And I think the biggest issue, Mike, you mentioned the cookies, right? They're sort of chocolate chip impersonators where they're sitting in the cookie and you think it's a chocolate chip and you pick it up and then you're like, shit, this is oatmeal. And I like oatmeal cookies. Oatmeal cookies are good. Oatmeal chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal cookies with nuts. That's where we want to be.
They're great.
Yes.
Okay, let's move away from raisins.
I don't judge an oatmeal cookie based on its association with raisins.
That's enough, Jordan. Let's talk about airheads. Which Survivor 45 player is most like airheads? Jordan, you're kicking us off here.
Okay, so an airhead. I don't think that anyone on this season is dumb, but who maybe comes off as not the smartest?
Okay.
I'm looking at the list here. I think that I'm going to go with somebody who I think is not a stupid person by any means, but I think made a decision that people were not a fan of. I'm going to go with Hannah Rose. Hannah Rose is the airhead.
Okay. Hannah. And then Mike, who do you want to go with?
I will go. I know it's probably not going to be Kendra being the number one answer. Again, I'm going to hedge my bets and think she's fairly up there. I agree. I don't think she's necessarily dumb, but I think the way that she comes across is like a little wacky and flighting. I mean, when it comes to like, again, I think to Jordan's point, it's more so about the name itself. I don't think there's really anything about, okay, you shake up an airhead and it turns into a little pillow. What does someone's gameplay resemble in terms of that? I think it's more so about the name here. And so like Austin tries to come across like the airhead, but I feel like he didn't really come across like that. So I was going to say either Kendra or Hannah, whichever one Jordan didn't say.
Okay, so you both had very good answers. Kendra had 21.3% and Hannah had 20.9%. So very good. The other top answer was Sifu, actually, also with 21.3% of the vote.
More of a gummy bear, but okay. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Let's go to Werther's Original.
Ooh.
Mike, who do you think is most like Werther's Original?
I know who he's going to say.
They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same outcome. I am an insane man. Nearly 10 years of podcasting has proven this.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce is... Ooh, actually. So Bruce is old. There's also another older contestant on this season, though. So I'm going to go with Bruce because Bruce has been the one that has been the most about like he didn't talk about in this episode like they're talking about I think when he got married he's like back in my day. So the fact that he actually put on a Werther's Original old man voice feels like Bruce, and the fact that Bruce has gotten more focused than Julie makes me feel like he's the consensus number one here.
Okay, and Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, so I was going to go with whatever older player that you didn't pick, Mike. So you went with Bruce. I was hoping you were going to go Julie because I do think Bruce is going to be the number one answer. I just think Bruce is more top of mind than Julie right now. But yeah, I could see Julie, in her purse having some Werther's Originals. If I went up to Julie on the street and said, Julie, can I have a Werther's Original? I think she would have one. And I'm not saying that in
late 40s.
I like them too. I have them. I literally think I have some in my car right now. I do like Werther's. I like the ones that have the espresso in it. There's like the coffee Werthers,
Ooh.
which are very
gosh.
good. Yeah, they're a little bit of a pick me up. I think I have them in my drawer in my kitchen too. So I am going to go. It's not an insult. I like Julie and I like Werthers, so I'm going with Julie.
You both have the top two answers. You're very simplistic.
Damn ageist
listeners.
audience.
I know. Which I also really like Werther's Originals. I think they're really good.
They're good candy. I don't know why. I mean, I know they're old,
good
and that's
rap.
why they have the. But like sometimes
They're old,
Old
reliable.
is good. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But Jordan had the top answer
Hey,
with
wow.
36.7%, Mike with 14.8.
Oh, wow. That was a big drop off.
Yes. Okay, let's move to Laffy Taffies.
Ooh, Laffy
I
Taffy.
believe, Jordan, you're giving us our first answer. Which
Sea
player
bass.
is most like
Yeah.
Laffy Taffy? And
Yes,
I
it
did
would-
use a banana flavor for the picture in the
Banana
survey.
flavor. Okay, so that I think actually helps here. So I think that a Laffy Taffy. There's a lot of funny people. I think that Emily's funny. I think that Kendra is funny. I think the Laffy Taffy is going to be someone that people think is funny. And I think that the RHAP audience is eating up the Brandon Donlin. I'm going Brandon Donlin for a Laffy Taffy.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
And Mike, what about you? What do you think?
I gotta keep going back to Kendra. Maybe it's my own personal bias that she makes me laugh profusely, but like the fact that again, the sequence we got of this woman invoking a cat, a dog. There was at one point where she was like reaching on the ground to throw something, but then like puts it back down. Like there's so much comic wackiness that's been portrayed from her that it feels like she lives on the back of a Laffy Taffy wrapper.
Okay, so Mike had the better answer, 14.2, Jordan 7.5, but Jake was overall the best.
Oh yeah,
or
he's
the top answer here.
He's also kind of a Laffy Taffy. Yeah.
I guess so.
Not in this episode.
I didn't really see it, but okay. Audience.
He's got some like fun jokes in, but yeah, I agree that I think we've gotten like goofier people this season.
Maybe it's because he would give us a Laffy Taffy style joke, but then I feel if you're gonna go that, you go Bruce for like the dad joke of it all. I don't know. All right, let's talk about Sour Patch Kids. Mike, you're up first. Which player is most like a Sour Patch Kid?
This is Emily in every sense of all three syllables, right?
yes.
First they're sour, then they're sweet. That's been Emily's game so far.
All right, Jordan, what about you?
I think that is the best answer. I am going to
Okay.
go with somebody though who they're Sour Patch Kids, and who is going to be top of mind? Which kid, Survivor kid, is going to be top of mind this week? Brando. He's young, and he just got voted out, so he's a Sour Patch Kid.
He's young and he just got voted
He's feeling
out.
sour.
Okay.
People are
He's feeling
people
sour.
are voting with Brando on the mind.
He's most likely to listen to Olivia Rodrigo's Sour.
Mike, you're right. 38.3% of the vote for Emily. It was the top answer off the board. The second answer was actually Katura with 21, and Brando was somewhere lower with 5.1. Sorry,
Okay.
Jordan.
That's
Okay,
all right.
there's still a significant amount of people that thought of Brando with your logic.
Better than my
Yes.
Sabaya answer for the first one.
Yes. Let's talk about nerds. This was the general consensus of the season. So many nerds. Jordan, you're going to give us our first answer. Which nerd are you going to pick?
Okay, so we're between two.
Okay.
And I think it's funny that we have like Brandon Donlin on the season, and there are two bigger nerds that are in the game right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that I could use my logic that I used last time, which did not work, of thinking that Brando was on the mind, but clearly he is a nerd talking about Pokemon, but he's talking with Drew about the same Pokemon. I think that Drew, Lanky Blanky, is going to be the nerds. So I'm going Drew.
Okay. All right. And Mike?
I'm choosing between the Brandons here. I know them, unlike Google AI. I will go with Brando. I think that Brandon. I think Jordan. I think he still personifies that bit of a nerd. I think, unfortunately, from like the physical weakness stereotype associated with nerds. But I also feel like it's been a while since we've really focused on him, and I do think, to your point, there is a bit more of a highlight on Brando as a nerd in this episode. So I think that recency bias will win out.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I can. I like want to show you the chart because it's so funny to me. 42.8% for Drew, 45.5% for Brando. It's like two huge.
I wish he went
chunks with, like,
Donlin.
a few. So that was the third top answer with only 5.4% for Brandon.
Wow.
So, and then a few people got like singular votes. right? I think Emily was the next with only 4 total votes out of the 200 and however many responses. So
I think she's someone. I think Emily is someone who, if you looked at her in a different season, you'd be like, oh, she's kind of has like a nerdy vibe. She's a financial analyst, but on this season, she's not the nerd.
no, she is not the nerd. All right, let's move on and let's talk about Reese's peanut butter cups here. So, Mike, we're back to you. Who do you think represents Reese's peanut butter cups?
So Reese's peanut butter cups is like the most universally popular candy. I believe actually 538 did like a survey, I think like 5 or so years ago. They determined that was the most universally popular candy. And so, listen, I'll show my hand a little bit because I feel like Jordan's going to be using the same logic. Like, I want to go with somebody that is very popular from both a player perspective and a fan perspective. I do think this idea of like, you got chocolate in my peanut butter, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. I'll go with somebody that has like wormed their way into a bunch of different pairs here. And maybe this is going back to that conversation we had earlier, Liana. I will go with Kelly here.
Okay.
Kelly. You know, the whole time you were talking, I was basically going to use the same logic as you. For the same reasons, I'm going to go with Caleb.
Okay, Caleb. Okay, very interesting. So, Mike, solid answer. Top, technically 3. Okay, so very good. But Jordan did have the top answer. Caleb was 18.6, Kelly at 11.7%.
Who was the other one in the top 3?
Austin. Well, so technically there's a tie for third place. So it was Caleb, then Sabaya, which was very interesting to me. Not that
everyone
she's not
loves
popular,
everyone loves Sabaya. Yeah.
But yes, I think also with the way, her whole arc was just very interesting. Then it was Kelly and Austin tied for third place. Let's talk about Kit Kats. Also, I think a very popular candy. So let's begin with Jordan.
Okay, Kit Kat.
Who's the most like Kit Kat?
Who's the most like a Kit Kat? So a Kit Kat famously is has you could break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. So who's breaking off? Who's breaking off of potentially the people that they were originally working with? I think that's what I am looking for here. I think that the Kit Kat is going. This is tough.
Yeah, I think this is the toughest one we've gotten so far.
You know what? I'm okay. I'm not going to say necessarily the people. Okay, there's somewhat. There's two.
No, I need help, please.
No.
By the way, I don't want to hold on first. I don't want to put any pressure on this because this is our final question, and the current scores are Mike with 226 points and Jordan with 225.4 points. You guys are 0.6 apart.
Oh, I thought I was getting demolished.
I thought I was winning, but by a little bit. But I'm wrong. But okay. I'm gonna say that the Kit Kat, and again, popular candy. People love Kit Kat. I like Kit Kat.
Okay.
I think that the person who's been forced to break off and go into different little groups is the same answer I gave last time. I'm going to go Caleb.
Okay, Caleb. And Mike, what's your answer?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of like first blush answers you could give. I think Caleb, there's also the KK of Kit Kat.
Ooh,
I think
that's
a very
think of
easy answer. You talk about breaking.
There's a lot
off.
of Ks on the season, though.
There's a lot of Ks. What I will say, though, what is the slogan of Kit Kat Bar?
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
No, what comes before it? Give me a break.
Give me a break.
Who is probably saying at this point, give me a break? I think it's Jake. I think Jake needs a break. He's been having a lot of issues out there. I also think, like you said,
give me a Jake.
Kit Kat is a popular bar. I think that Jake is very popular amongst the community, especially after, again, he opened up so beautifully about his eating disorder in the past. So I will go with Jake here with this asinine logic.
Okay, so congratulations, Jordan. You are the winner because let me tell you, the K name strategy seemed to be top of mind. Our top 3 answers, Kelly, Katura, and Caleb. Caleb
That
being the
was
third
I think,
answer.
the logic that people voted on.
I did see some tweets that people did mention that as part of the logic. Unfortunately for you, Mike, Jake only had 4.4% of the vote, falling much lower out of the top 6. But you both did so well. You were only less than 6 points apart
That's
in a
amazing.
game where the total score is 236 points. That's
Wow.
so impressive for both of you. You both did so well.
Well, you
Thank
did
you.
so well making the survey. I'm curious how far apart.
well.
Was Caleb the top answer?
So the top answer was actually Kelly. So it was Kelly, then Katura, then Caleb as the third.
Interesting.
Where
yeah.
did Kendra fit in there?
Kendra was, people had given Kendra for a lot of answers. She
Mhm.
was only 3.2% of the vote.
Okay.
So much.
So
I mean, it
people
makes
like Kendra-
sense.
Kendra
She was
fatigue.
kind of running around with the energy of like a kid with a big sugar rush, right? Wasn't
She
there
doesn't
that
need a
entire
break.
sequence where I love that, by the way, that so Drew last episode, he's like, I had this impression of Emily and it got completely reversed. And then this episode, he's like, I had this impression of Kendra and it was 100% right. She's exactly who you think that she is.
Yes, I love that. And that's what's also so fun about now having these new combinations of people is that you get first impressions almost all over again, or second impressions for that matter. It's really entertaining. I love this.
Well, thank you as always for a fantastic survey. And again, for everyone, no matter what logic you use, for filling it out. Jordan, let's throw things to you. Let's bring things down from the sugar high that we were on. Of course, at the end of every week on the B&B, we have a charity or cause that the guest would like to highlight for the audience to be aware of. What would you like to highlight this season?
So obviously, as everybody knows, there was a couple weeks ago a terrorist attack in Israel on October 7th, where I believe it's up to 1,400 people were killed during the terrorist attack. There's also a lot of people who were kidnapped and who are still being held in captivity. And there is an organization called Magen David Adom. Magen is Magen, David spelled like David. Adom, ADOM. And what they do is they provide life-saving treatment, often in the midst of rocket attacks and gunfire. And they are a blood services division where 100% of the blood needed for people in Israel is being supplied by this organization. During the attack, they did have, so basically they're an ambulance service in Israel. And they had a bunch of ambulances that were either stolen or destroyed during the terrorist attack. So they really need a lot of help right now. My school, actually, that I coach at a Jewish school, they've raised over $36,000, which actually pays for an ambulance. And then also they have these like motorcycle ambulances that cost about $18,000. So all the money goes towards supplying ambulances, and they unfortunately also had staff members who were killed during the attack. So they're struggling right now. They could use all the help that they could get. Unfortunately, I have friends who live in Israel and coworkers who are from Israel. And while they are all personally okay, they all know people who have either been killed or kidnapped who are still, being held by Hamas. And it's obviously a terrible situation. So any little bit helps. And this is all, it's emergency care for people who are, either injured or, unfortunately in a tough situation right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up. So you just look it up, or is there a website they should visit?
So yes, if you go to, let me actually give it here. Hold on. AFMDA.org. It's this is the American website. So it's American Friends of Magen David Adom, AFMDA. You could read more about what's going on there and what people are going through right now, and what this organization has been doing. And they've done it for a long time, but obviously right now, with the equipment that was destroyed and with the people that work for them that were killed, they're going through a tough time.
Well, Jordan, thank you as always for coming on. You are no minion.
It's weird switching gears with from what we were talking about before.
It always is.
Yes, I know.
But you are no minion, sir. You are the Gru with all of the machinations you brought in, all the master plans to win that candy game. So, of course, you are on with Rob every week on This Week in Survivor History. But is there anything in particular you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at Jordan Kalish, where I'm always, especially on Wednesday nights talking about Survivor. And then if I always plug it on Twitch. If you are someone who's in the New York City area, either you live here or you happen to be here on a Wednesday night for Survivor, we do viewing parties every week. They are free viewing parties. Anyone can come and watch. I love having patrons there of RHAP. It's always a lot of fun. Last week we had Sheldon from the UK. 2 weeks ago we had patrons all the way from South Africa. So I don't think people are traveling for these viewing parties, but if you happen to be in New York and you want to watch Survivor with a bunch of people that are passionate about the show, reach out to me. You know what? I could give I always say that I don't. The bar is called St. Pat's in New York City. It's in Midtown. I don't mind the. No one. There's no ops here. We're all friends. You can know where we go.
All right, Liana, what about you?
Where we go. You can follow me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. The Masked Singer Puya and I had a little bit of delay on the recording, but that should be out now or soon for the latest episode of Masked Singer. And then, yeah, just chilling with the B&B for now until Lego Masters comes back in a couple weeks.
Awesome. And you can check out, of course, the interview that I had with Brando. We really just scratched the surface as to all the reveals that he had, in addition to talking about, again, this mysterious advantage that got taken away from him. He gets a bit more into his relationship with Kendra, all the inroads he was making over on Old Bello. Apparently there was something where he just like flat out asked Drew if he had any advantages, and Drew was open to him about it. So perhaps one of the reasons why Drew was openly telling him to his face that he didn't want to be in an alliance with him is Drew is really trying to present himself as like, I'm an open book. I'm vulnerable. That's one reason why he said he connected with Kendra. So a lot to fill in terms of everything that happened with Brando. Really enjoy getting to talk with him. Of course, I talked about both evictees from this week's double eviction on Big Brother 25, the most recently eliminated team from The Amazing Race. Did a podcast with Rob and Jess as well about a very fun episode there covering Battlestar Galactica on post-show recaps. And actually, this past week, I did a sports because the NBA season has arrived. I wanted a team. I wanted a rooting interest. So I joined Akiva and Alex on the 32 Fans podcast, where they talked me through the wild history of the NBA. And by the end, I was able to find one, maybe two teams at the end of it. So happy NBA season to all of us, Caleb especially. He made the basketball shout out on the show, so I imagine he's a pretty big fan. Hope everyone's been enjoying the season so far, as well as Survivor 45, as we have reached a milestone next week. We're not entirely sure what this mergatory situation is going to be exactly, but regardless, everyone's living on one beach. I think it's living, exactly. I think it's going to be a very fun situation. This cast has already proved to be like bananas in the most delightful way, banana Laffy Taffy. And so I can only imagine now bringing a dozen plus of them together on one beach is going to be absolutely wild. We'll keep the guests a bit of a surprise because we're still trying to figure it out, much like we don't know exactly how the format's going to work next week. But regardless, Liana and I will be back next week to start the post-merge, quote unquote, I suppose, of Survivor 45. It is here already. Thank you all so much again for checking this out, for filling out the survey. You can always send us game ideas like Jess Lees did this week. You can email rhapbnb@gmail.com or use the hashtag RHAPBNB. Any and all game suggestions are incredibly encouraged as we go through this whole charade each and every week. So special thanks to Scott St. Pierre and the team behind the scenes at RHAP for making sure everything's taken care of to put this podcast out to your ears and your eyes. Will from America, the recently married Will from America, for his fantastic theme song. Congratulations. May you make beautiful music together moving forward. Liana and I will be back next week covering the Mergatory episode, and as promised, I will play this mysterious Pokemon Go song to close out the podcast. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll check you out at your next stay.
I'm back. I play Pokemon Go every day. I play Pokemon Go. I play Pokemon Go every day. I play Pokemon Go. When I wake up, I'm grabbing my phone. I wanna catch up.